told you I want to speak to you about morality in public affairs. Morality in public affairs means when you have put yourself up to conduct public business, you have to subscribe to principles of morality and ethics, even if they are not written in law. Even if they are not written in law. Tonight I told you I want to speak to you about morality in public affairs. Morality in public affairs means when you have to subscribe to principles of morality and ethics, even if they are not written in law. Even if they are not written in law.
Doubles and coffee, but like them PNM, they holding on, boy. They Miss Watty from Prepdeco, she called the meeting. Two people who she claims that the board wants to discipline and so on. She called a meeting even though PNM lost since April 28th. She says she ain't going nowhere. She moving ahead. Two law firms tell her, listen, Miss Lady, you have no local standard. You have no authority. You are a board.
We do not have a different style here. Now, yesterday we would have heard this whole Plebdeco fiasco and the appointments of individuals, the firing of individuals, and the people saying that, hey, these people not supposed to be there, Matafa. Now, Section 99 of the Company Acts would have said that explicitly and would have talked about fiduciary duties. Now, really and truly, before election would have taken place, we would have seen this slogan, when UNC win, everybody wins. But does everybody wins? Now, let's take a deep dive into this entire thing.
This again is not unknown. There have been many changes of governments where public servants have been attacked and alleged to have been agents of the former government and being attacked unjustifiably and humiliated and ridiculed, as you have pointed out.
For me, I think young people in power, to start with.
Now, take for example Anil Roberts, somebody who have been speaking out and being explicit on a lot of issues. Now, in further examining plenty of his material, we would have seen some errors, Amatafa. Now, don't take my word for it. Listen to Anil Roberts.
Doubles and coffee, but like them PNM, they holding on, boy. They Miss Watty from Prepdeco, she called the meeting. Two people who she claims that the board wants to discipline and so on. She called a meeting even though PNM lost since April 28th. She says she ain't going nowhere. She moving ahead. Two law firms tell her, listen, Miss Lady, you have no local standard. You have no authority. You are a board without power. What are you doing? Our clients are not presenting themselves to you. They will present themselves to the new board if any reason is found so to do. You know Miss Watty, Miss PNM, Annette Watty, chairperson, PNM chairman of Plebdeco, called the meeting. The people did not present themselves, and she fired the people. Well, for all the lawyers who are out there, all you understand the process and natural justice and the right to defend yourself and all of that. So the PNM board now putting you, the taxpayers, in jeopardy of paying two people millions of dollars for breach of constitutional rights, natural justice, the right to defend themselves, and so on.
You hear it? Now, some of you might thought he's being noble here in this point, but on a deep revelation during a live press conference that would have taken place yesterday, in which Penelope Beckles, Faris Alwari, Colum Imbert would have been talking about some of these inconsistency, and for want of a better word, I want to use dishonesty, a matter of fact. I want to use that word, dishonesty. Now, they would have explained this thing entirely, and some of readers take certain words wholly and solely, but pay attention.
This again is not unknown. There have been many changes of governments where public servants have been attacked and alleged to have been agents of the former government and being attacked unjustifiably and humiliated and ridiculed, as you have pointed out.
The government is claiming that a lot of board members of state agencies are refusing to resign. What are your thoughts on that, maybe any advice you may have for these board members?
Are you sure it's a lot? Or just some?
Reported speech on what the government is
I
claiming.
think it's just some. And if you look in the papers, you will see reference to Plebdeco. Now, Plebdeco is a company that's listed on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. So it's governed by the rules of the stock exchange. And the directors of a company like that, Angostura is similar, National Flour Mills is similar, FCB is similar. All of these companies, the directors of these companies have a fiduciary duty to serve the interests of the organization rather than their own interests. To change the board of Plebdeco, you have to have a meeting, a special meeting of shareholders. So Corporation Sole, which is the person who has taken my position, Corporation Sole has to convene a meeting of shareholders because Corporation Sole, which is the Minister of Finance, owns 51% of Plebdeco. The other 49% owned by various entities and is trading on the stock exchange as well. So there's a process. And if the directors just resign en masse, Plebdeco, a listed company, would be in breach of the Securities and Exchange Commission Act. So it would be irresponsible of the directors of Plebdeco, which is a limited liability company, so it's governed by the Companies Act and by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the rules of the stock exchange. It would be completely irresponsible of them to just resign just so. If you look at one of the articles in the newspaper this morning, you see the chairman of Plebdeco making the point the new group of directors has not been proposed. So what you're going to do, tell them just go, and what you now have a listed company on the stock exchange with no board? That's why I call them amateurs.
For me, I think the young people in power, to start with.
She called a meeting even though PNM lost since April 28th. She says she ain't going nowhere. She moving ahead. Two law firms tell her, listen, Miss Lady, you have no local standard. You have no authority. You are a board without power.
Right. Now, here, Colin Imbert, that would have explained this whole thing entirely. I mean, or you're going and want certain people to come out on plenty of the platforms and them other people advocating, let this person go. The firing people, I could play all the material that we have in. We could, up till on 104.7 this morning, a known lawyer would have called in and would have given some information. But now, have they taken into consideration Chapter 99, Section 99 on the Companies Act? Something funny about this whole situation. But here, Colin Imbert.
Corporation Sole has to convene a meeting of shareholders because Corporation Sole, which is the Minister of Finance, owns 51% of Plebdeco. The other 49% owned by various entities and is trading on the stock exchange as well. So there's a process. And if the directors just resign en masse, Plebdeco, a listed company, would be in breach of the Securities and Exchange Commission Act. So it would be irresponsible of the directors of Plebdeco, which is a limited liability company, So it's governed by the Companies Act and by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the rules of the stock exchange. It would be completely irresponsible of them to just resign just so. There's no problem. As soon as the shareholder comes and says, look, I want all of you all to leave, convenes a special meeting, passes a resolution to replace the current directors with new directors, that's the end of it. It's simple. It's much ado about nothing. Okay? So you got the point? It's completely different. Just hold on. It's completely different to a wholly owned state enterprise that is not listed. I could just pick one, RDC or CPEP or something like that. Yes, Rhea.
Yeah, so I'm amazed at what you just said.
You're amazed?
Yes.
Why?
Well, because the impression has been given that these people are just so recalcitrant and
So you think it's a false impression?
what
These people have fiduciary responsibilities. They could be fined.
Not specified.
They could be fined by the registrar of companies. They could be fined by the SEC. They can't just resign just so. They have a responsibility. This is a listed company. You think the directors of FCB could just up and resign just so? And decisions have to be made on a day-to-day basis in these entities? You got it?
Because what I'm seeing on social media, they are posting pictures of some of these people, not just Wati, I think is her name. There's another guy who's, they said he's a director on the CDB, and they're saying these people are refusing to resign, and you know this is the situation that we are. Yes, they're pillorying these people and
It's
holding them
entirely
up to-
irresponsible and reprehensible. They have to remain until they are replaced. If it's an ordinary company, and I could use an example, let's say Rural Development or CPEP or UDCOT or one of those, they could just go, and the government next day could appoint a whole new board. But a listed company, there's a process. You have to give notice. You can't just hold a meeting of a listed company just so, you know. You can't get up today and say, I'm holding a meeting tomorrow, you know. There's a notice period in the law, in the bylaws of the company. Usually it's 14 days, 21 days of a notice of a meeting of shareholders to change the board of directors. You can't just do it by VAPs.
Who are the other directors of Pindico and the other shareholders, sorry, and why are they being silent on an issue that they clearly would understand?
I find that this is a common thing in Trinidad and Tobago, especially when the government changes. They're afraid. It's as simple as that.
It makes me think of another example. This situation, because I'm seeing the same vilification of people, the situation involving the national security, well, the Homeland Security and Defense Ministry, where a permanent secretary took a certain action, allegedly to take a check to a former minister. Now, the minister Hines could defend himself, the former minister, but the permanent secretary and I think a PS, a deputy PS or acting PS, as well as some, they are being held up to public ridicule. And I've seen blogs with Anil Roberts and Philip Alexander, who are not even involved in that ministry, talking about the PS being a mailman, and this is the kind of thing they're doing. And I mean, it's just public servants being attacked. I haven't heard the opposition defending these people, so I want to find out, what do you do as senior public servants when this kind of changeover takes place, and in an effort to do your job or to be helpful, this is the kind of risk that you take?
Well, I would prefer that the leader of the opposition would answer that, but I'll just say one thing, that this again is not unknown. There have been many changes of governments where public servants have been attacked and alleged to have been agents of the former government and being attacked unjustifiably and humiliated and ridiculed, as you have pointed out.
Right, we are back. Now, before this whole thing take place, we would have been telling you, citizens, that unionism have no place in government. The trade union. We see members of the PSA who was president, Leroy Batiste, is now the Minister of Labour. Right? Felicia Thomas, the president, have been spotted all around the place with Kamala Persad-Bissessel. Even she would have spoken on a platform. Now, is she, a matter of fact, going to stand aside and watch the MPs of the UNC blast to stand up for these people? We are seeing a breach in terms of good industrial relation and practice is taking place, and everybody quiet. What is going on within this country? Why? Is it that we have reached a point that, we sell our souls for money, for fame, for position, and for future security, that you do not care about the people that is at the side of you? You don't care about what laws is breached. You don't care about the humanitarian side of this whole thing, that you stand aside and you watch ministers and honorable, not ministers, yes, appointed ministers, a matter of fact, behave like this. I mean, yes, we go into government. Government is something that, governs what's taking place in society. And all government have a responsibility to consolidate power or to have people around them that will further their interests in certain things. But our government is there to manage the resources of a country in the best interest of the people within the country. Not everybody that belongs to a particular regime that they would have stayed there. What Felicia Thomas have to say about this thing that is taking place, and you're seeing people like Anil Roberts, Philip Alexander, other radio station, blog posts, people that is coming out and putting people's name on blast? Felicia, I just waited.
The PS was transferred, 2 PSs to the office of the Prime Minister. So punitive action was taken without apparent due process.
So, if I may just tee it up a little bit further for the leader of the opposition, we have been in serious reflection on this general issue. The scandalizing of board members in public companies, where you face sanction under stock exchange and securities and exchange laws for improper action. Just to remind you that corporations sold their 44 wholly owned companies. It's listed in the Ministry of Finance website. You can see it. 44 wholly owned companies. You can bring a cabinet note today and replace everybody, because he who appoints can disappoint in those kinds of ways. But to step out into the public domain and scandalize people, carrying articles, for instance, by a former attorney general as a legal representative for people saying, I'm not listening to you because you should change and you don't have the government's mandate, that ought to be known to be in conflict with the law. Section 99 of the Companies Act is very clear. In a previous incarnation, sued people, a vast number of people, for breach of fiduciary obligations, and then those cases fell apart. But on the issue that we were just speaking about, which is of concern, and this is persons who are being scandalized, not only public servants, I want to mark the spot that there are a number of employees of companies who are being targeted as well. And again, to repeat the caution, when you see the reportage that ministers of government are arriving at entities and calling for contracts and reviewing contracts themselves as ministers, that is a breach of the minister's reach. It is an action that is outside of the law. A minister handles under Section 85 of the Constitution policy prescriptions. Even board members cannot get involved in management under the State Enterprises Manual. You see that under the Companies Act, under the Companies Learning. What we're seeing right now, and we're receiving much of the conversation, but which we wish to confirm, because a responsible opposition has to confirm with particulars certain things. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say. We're getting the stories back of teeing up for firing. I want to remind you, in 2010, 5,000 plus URP workers were the first to go. 315 persons took action as well. But CPEP is being earmarked, and we will come with more, for mass firings. 10,000 odd workers, structures. So this whole position of waking up one day with a promise that everybody wins when you win, then understanding, well, for others to win, you have to lose, or the constant criticism, there is a vast amount of defamation and scandal which will be dealt with. But we have to make sure that we deal with this in a responsible way. I think the last thing that I will say, I am acutely aware that a loss is a loss and a win is a win. And in the first month of a government's tenure, they are entitled to settle in. And we are entitled to reflect. And we must be careful not to act on hyperbole and speculation, but to get facts so that we can be responsible in not only what we say, but what we do. But I'd like to caution the government that irresponsible action, witch hunting, mass firings, persecution, scandalizing will not be tolerated and will be met with full force. Because there are people who you normally speak to, warm and friendly people, afraid to say hello to you in the corridor. All of my colleagues can testify to that. People are mortified, afraid to say hello to anybody who was once in a hall of power. When I was Attorney General and I came into office, not a single person that I inherited was dismissed. My personal secretary was Anand Ramlogan's personal secretary, and stayed so. Nobody was dismissed. The board of Plipdeco stayed till 2021. They weren't dismissed. Minister Imbert was corporation sold. He didn't scandalize the board because he was aware of the stock exchange and securities and exchange and public shareholding positions, particularly in a volatile market such as this. So I urge the need for responsibility, and I'd leave it for the leader of the opposition to take the main call.
Now, hear what Keith Scotland going and say here concerning the definition of cyberbullying. Now, everybody have a right to be responsible within the public domain. And everybody also have a right to their opinion at the same time. But which come first? Which come first? Responsibility. And then your opinion after that matter. And the type of responsibility I am speaking about is within the legal framing of some of these shows and them that take place in the media. Sometimes when you pick up your phone and you decide to make a post, are you saying things that is responsible, or are you echoing the wishes and opinion of an organization? That is what you must consider before you even start speaking. Now, I understand that at the end of the day, people that is, cozy or have this connection with any political party, they just get favors to suit. But at the same time, do some of these public servants really deserve some of these retribution that they are receiving here in the public domain? And there's a slogan, Trinidad and Tobago, you need to wake up and you need to say something. Be a man. Say something. It's not always about the money. Or is it?
You raised a very significant issue as it relates to the posting of persons' personal information and aggressive attacks on social media. It is the quintessential definition of cyberbullying. And in Trinidad and Tobago, it is illegal. And just to ensure the definition of cyberbullying, so we put it on record, it is the use of technology to harass, threaten, embarrass, or target another person, online threats, and means aggressive and rude texts, tweets, posts, messages, or posting of pictures and information of others designed to hurt and ridicule. That's the definition of cyberbullying. And how could we countenance that now? The cyberbullying of persons in Trinidad and Tobago by those in authority, by government ministers and persons put there. That is unacceptable. I've put the definition on the record so you can know this is not the opposition just speaking. It is out there in the public domain, and it is now for you to judge. Thank you.
From time to time in doing consultations, people making it very clear that they're not going to offer themselves to serve on boards. Because what they are seeing is that people feel that they're going to find their pictures, probably even their personal business on the television, on the radio, on Facebook, and social media. And as we said, particularly permanent secretaries and deputy permanent secretaries. I mean, when you have an incident like that, everybody becomes fearful that you can be the next person that would be targeted in the public domain.
Now, as I am sitting back here, seeing and gauging the responses of both ruling and opposition that have 10 years experience on the job, they would have done certain things, they would have known certain things. And the opposition, you know, the freshly coming, they was none, they was there, you know. But now they are exposed to other things that is taking place. And to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, instead of picking sides, now is our time that the comments needs to be gauged. You need to gauge what the PNM is putting out and what the UNC is putting out. Because there are going to be truths that are scattered in between every press conference and statements. Because there are people that, I mean, at this point in time, they ought to be responsible and not put out information that is not checked. Now, the PNM, they are there and they would have witnessed and they could correct some of the misinformation that is taking place outside. They are trying to be a little proper because at the end of the day, you know, I just want to change the style in which, you know, we do things here on this platform. So we would have evaluated this whole entire thing just a while back. We would have listened to comments from the UNC, and we are now evaluating comments from the PNM. And we are asking ourselves a question. Why have we voted in the UNC? Because we believe that, you know, the PNM would have neglected us. And let me give the UNC a chance. So now we are seeing information that is conflicting because some of the times, back then when Rowley talks certain things, the Honorable Christopher Rowley talks certain things outside it, but we used to turn off the TV. Now we do not have that luxury. If you want to know the truth and want to understand what attention to both sides of the story. And as I would have said earlier, that Felicia Thomas, the president of the PSA, needs to say something on what is taking place and the brutalizing, the scandalizing of the public servant. And at the end of the day, we are human first. So many of you that saying, hey, it's good for them, they ought not to be supporting a particular party that I don't like. Everybody have a choice. We are human beings first. The government is a government that's supposed to be for everyone, regardless and irrespective to who they vote for, who they think they vote for. Because you could never know how the ballot paper is made up. So I hope that that whole interview that we would have put together, you know, shed some light of what is taking place inside of governance. And for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to critically analyze what is taking place here within our society. Trust what I'm saying, keep your eyes on what is taking place. The resources in Trinidad and Tobago is few. And we need reputable people to be in control of those resources. Again, my name is Renson Jeffrey. This is the Workers' Rights Platform. And I would like to thank you for staying tuned to this broadcast with me. Thank you.
Let's talk board resignations. While I was at the UNC, one of the many statements that did not sit well with me would have been one of our deputy political leaders, now a minister, saying, you see all them people who wouldn't even make a statement to help us, all their fancy position, they wouldn't even make a statement, but they're supposed to be UNC members. When we get into office, I don't care who it is. It didn't matter to me their qualifications. Those who stood by us, them getting board position. I want to hear nothing about it because their loyalty will be rewarded. Remember, those aren't my words, but I know somebody might clip it 20 years down the road to make it seem as though I said it. But so be it. I say that to put the whole issue of board resignations and the forcing of board resignations into context. You need to ask yourself the question, what is the motive behind rushing these boards to resign? Are UNC loyalists clamoring because Kamla Prasad-Bissessar would have had limited ministerial positions, though she tried to create a lot? Kamla Prasad-Bissessar would have had a lot of senator positions, a lot more than the last, but limited. She's depending on board positions to keep people at bay, I think. Allegedly, of course. These are all my conspiracy theories. Nothing factual here, right? Except for the statement that I made in the beginning. That one was a factual statement that was made. It wasn't a private conversation. It was said out loud, but not everybody is willing to speak up anyway. I digress. We need to, one, see the motive behind the forceful resign. Secondly, the manner in which this UNC government is handling things, dare I say, it is downright nasty. Putting board members' cell phone numbers, calling them deranged, talking about their behavior is unlawful. It is tantamount to bullying. How can you put a board member's cell phone number and encourage the country to call them and harass them into a resignation? CEO of the Caribbean Corporate Governance Institute, Mrs. Kamla Rampersad de Silva, did a very well-balanced, mature article asking and going through, the headline was, should board members resign? And she spoke about, what is the Westminster principle? But of course, we already know that Kamla Prasad-Bissessar does not follow the Westminster principle. Otherwise, she would have resigned in 2015 and 2020. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the House Speaker that we have. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the Minister of Energy that we have. We wouldn't have some of the senators that we have, the junior ministers. So what we know is that Kamla Prasad-Bissessar does not hold fast to any Westminster tradition or principle. So let's put that aside. Traditions, though, does not necessarily mean that it is the right thing to do. So she went on to say that in some situations, you've actually seen tradition that the companies remain without directors, without a board for up to a year. That's madness. That's instability. So rather than having all of this underground nasty campaigning, bullying and forcing people to resign, we should be, as a country, discussing maturely, debating maturely, is it best practice to have 100 and how much ever state boards just simply, an exodus of board members, mass resignations? Does that do best to instill investor confidence? Is that best practice? Some of these companies, believe it or not, the state does not even hold the majority. Some of these companies are publicly listed companies. These are the mature discussions that we need to have, that I fear neither the PNM nor the UNC are interested in having. And the UNC's ground campaign is nasty and it is dangerous. I have some questions to the eater food, because the bottom line is you are trying to eat a food, and that is why you're clamoring, and every day on social media you're auditioning for a board position, begging, hoping, your last resort, because the senators' positions are filled, the House Speaker's filled, deputy, everything is filled. So the last thing for you to eat a food is to get a few state contracts or to have a board position. Thus far, one position, which is the chairman of WASA, has been publicly announced. So all of this hullabaloo, is it a distraction to your own members who are clamoring for a position, who are clamoring to eat a food at the taxpayers' expense? Is it to say, well, listen, what they want me to do, they ain't even resign yet? Here's what I suggest. We want a comprehensive list of all board positions available. Next to it, you will see, this is who's been appointed thus far. This position is vacant because they have resigned. So, for example, we know Heritage would have resigned. UDCOT would have resigned. I don't have a list of everyone who's resigned thus far. But that would be another conversation where people were saying, ha, 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 they resigned because they're guilty. That's why they're trying to hide. It just speaks to the ignorance, because the same UNC members were out there trolling around saying, look, this one resigned and that one resigned because they know they're guilty. That's why they resigned. Instead of actually knowing that it was just a tradition that the day after elections, if your party lost, you just resign. But all of that just shows the ignorance, unfortunately, of those who vote and put certain people into power. But I digress. Here is my challenge to the government. We want a comprehensive list. These are the board positions available, meaning all the board positions. These are the state companies, these are the boards listed out. And then next to it, you can put vacant because that PNM political appointee resigned and you are yet to fill it. You can say, like in the case of the WASA chairman, new appointee. So we can see the date. So we can see the date of that person was appointed. If that person was appointed anywhere between April and May, and now June of 2025, we know that this is a new political appointment. He is a UNC politically appointed person. If we see it was February 2024, then we know that this person is still PNM. Let us have a comprehensive, mature list going forward. Don't come and talk about, don't test me and with this and with that, and then put in people's cell phone number for the country to call and encouraging the country to call and bully them and harass them into resigning and all sorts of things. We want a country that is mature. We want a country that is moving forward. And that comes from leadership. Show us a mature approach to replacing the boards. Let us know, because we are investors and we need to have confidence that this is not just a gone today, empty for a year while you figure it out. Because listen, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, you took so long to appoint your senators. You took so, and then you just kind of leave us with it. We need to know what we're championing. We need to know. We're waiting on a comprehensive list. Let us see the state boards. Let us see all the names. Let us see who you still have to fill. Because we need to know. All of this just seems to me like bacchanal and drama. Because you have learned from the PNM. You've learned how to be a master of distraction. You've learned how to have us busy with bacchanal and drama so that we're not focused on things like the Judith Jones report. I'm waiting, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, by the way, on the Judith Jones report, so that we're not focused on what's going on with the 10% increase that you promised, what's going on with the finance press conference that you said about 3 weeks ago was going to be held. These are conversations. What's going on with Forex? Do you have an actual policy? My 10 minutes is up. Trinidad and Tobago, stay focused. Don't fall for the drama. Ask mature questions. Let us have mature debates, mature dialogue, mature conversation that will truly take us into developing status. Over to you, Madam Prime Minister.
Now more than ever. Democracy is more than just a system of governance, it is the soul of a free people. It is the beating heart of a nation where every voice matters, every vote counts, and every citizen holds power. It is the promise that no one is above the law, and that leaders serve us, not the other way around. At its core, democracy stands on four unshakable pillars. Equality, no matter your race, religion, class, or creed, your voice is equal. In a true democracy, the cleaner's ballot carries the same weight as the CEO's. Freedom, the right to speak, to question, to protest, to worship, and to live without fear, these are not privileges, they are birthrights. Accountability, leaders are not crowned, they are chosen. And when they falter, the people must have the power and courage to demand better. Rule of law, justice is not selective. It must serve everyone equally, protecting the weak from oppression and restraining the powerful from abuse. Throughout history, nations that embrace democracy have built stronger, fairer, and more compassionate societies. Where freedom breathes, progress follows, whether in education, healthcare, opportunity, or peace. And above all, democracy gives us the most precious of gifts, the ability to change our leaders without bloodshed, through ballots, not bullets. Why the UNC government must be held to the highest standard. In 2025, the people of Trinidad and Tobago gave their trust and their power to the United National Congress, UNC, led by Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bisesa. That trust must not be taken for granted. In a democracy, power is a sacred responsibility, not a reward. Governments are not above the people, they exist to serve them. And that is why the UNC must be held to the highest standards of honesty, transparency, and justice. Anything less is a betrayal of the people's faith. To prevent abuse of power, we must speak out. Silence enables corruption. To demand accountability, we must ask the hard questions, even when it is uncomfortable. To ensure good governance, we must expect more, better schools, safer streets, stronger healthcare. To protect our freedoms, we must remain ever vigilant, because rights lost are rarely regained. Loyalty to country must come before loyalty to party. Democracy dies when leaders are worshipped and not questioned. The vital role of the opposition. The opposition is not the enemy of the state, it is the lifeline of democracy. Today, that role falls to the People's National Movement, PNM. Their duty is to watch, to challenge, to speak for those unheard, not for power's sake, but for the people's sake. They are our check and balance, ensuring no government goes unchecked. They are our alternative voice, offering different ideas and better solutions. They are the voice of the marginalized, ensuring every citizen, not just the elite, has representation. They are the guarantee of peace, proving that change can happen without violence, without chaos, only through the will of the people. Without opposition, democracy becomes dictatorship wearing lipstick. The danger of party worship and blind activism. There is nothing noble about blind loyalty. When citizens become cheerleaders instead of watchdogs, when they defend every misstep, excuse every failure, and attack every critic, they are not helping their party, they are harming their country. Blind loyalty erodes accountability and gives corrupt leaders a free pass. It silences dissent, the very thing that keeps democracy alive. It weakens our institutions, replacing duty with devotion and policy with propaganda. Those who claim to be activists for the UNC or any party must understand this: your loyalty should never lie with a politician, but with the people. With the Constitution. With truth. Conclusion: put country before party, principles before politics. Democracy is fragile. It demands care. It demands courage. And it demands citizens who are not afraid to speak truth to power, even when it's their own party in power. In this critical moment in Trinidad and Tobago's history, we must choose loyalty or liberty, silence or strength, fear or freedom. Holding the UNC to a high standard is not an attack, it is our democratic duty. Supporting a strong opposition is not betrayal, it is how we keep democracy alive. And above all, let us remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. It is not something we watch from the sidelines. It is something we fight for, speak up for, and defend together. Let us rise, not for a party, but for our people. Not for power, but for principle. Not for today's victory, but for tomorrow's justice. If you decide to leave because we hold leaders accountable, you're not about democracy. Let's be clear. If you walk away from this channel simply because we demand transparency, accountability, and justice from those in power, you were never about democracy in the first place. You were about blind loyalty. You were about protecting a party, not protecting the people. You were about silencing criticism, not strengthening the system. Democracy is not about defending your side no matter what. It's about standing for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about asking the hard questions, even when they target your favorite leader. It's about truth, justice, and the people's power, not political worship. So if our call for good governance offends you, if our demand for ethical leadership makes you uncomfortable, if you think holding your party accountable is betrayal, then go ahead, leave. In doing so, you expose exactly who you are. Not a patriot. Not an activist. Not a defender of democracy. Just another follower blinded by party colors. Real democracy doesn't fear scrutiny, it demands it. And if that's too much for you, you were never meant to be here.
to discipline and so on. She called a meeting even though PNM lost since April 28. She says she ain't going nowhere. She moving ahead. 2 law firms tell her, listen, Miss Lady, you have no local standard. You have no authority. You are a board without power. What are you doing? Our clients are not presenting themselves to you. They will present themselves to the new board if any reason is found so to do. You know Miss Watty, Miss PNM, Annette Watty, chairperson, PNM chairman of Plebdeco, called the meeting. The people did not present themselves, and she fired the people. Well, for all the lawyers who are out there, all they understand the process and natural justice and the right to defend yourself and all of that. So the PNM board now putting you, the taxpayers, in jeopardy of paying 2 people millions of dollars for breach of constitutional rights, natural justice, the right to defend themselves, and so on. So Miss Watty and them go on and take a decision to fire 2 people, claiming all sorts of things. So me, and check the lawyers, Anand Ram Logan, Chambers, and Kyle Taklal Singh. So good luck to the taxpayers. But let me read something for you, because the media got on to Miss Annette PNM Watty, Miss Watty, who was appointed by the PNM, was to espouse and carry out the policies of the PNM government. PNM lost the election in a landslide on April 28, and Miss Watty ain't taking no advice from no leader of the PNM, no leader of the opposition, no penny. She not giving a penny for her thoughts. Penny Beckles, wow, you're in chaos, my lady. You sure you want to lead that thing, that splintered, shattered organization that lacks discipline, that does not understand the conventions of politics? When you lose, you're a politically appointed board. Go in peace. It's a very simple thing. But here, Miss Watty, so the media got on to Miss Watty, and Miss Watty said, contacted yesterday on the investigation into Subaya and Lyman, Chairman Watty, they still calling she Chairman Watty, said, so I'm a mad woman that I just invited him, Subaya, to a meeting today. I'm a mad woman to just send him on administrative leave since January 29th. She subsequently refused to comment on their dismissals. Well, I don't think I need to answer your question, Miss Watty. I think the whole population would answer your question. It's so apt that you ask the perfect question. Let me repeat the question asked by PNM former chairperson, Miss Annette Watty. So, I am a mad woman? What, that I just invited him, Subaya, to a meeting today? I am a mad woman to just send him on administration leave since January? Or they just watch my face and they know the answer to them question. But then, Miss Watty continued, Annette Watty. Here she. If it's one thing that I don't do is victimize people. Tell them to come with facts. I think some of us may start resigning because we don't want our names tarnished. That's very good. You see, even mad people could eventually get it right. No, you should have resigned already. If you should start resigning, or you should have finished resigning, you are putting the taxpayers in jeopardy. You are clinging on by your fingernail and toenails to nothing. You are causing the taxpayers to be put at risk by taking decisions that you are not authorized so to do. The Honorable Prime Minister of the country has asked you all nicely to go your way. She has won. She has the mandate of the people. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And Kamala Persad-Bissessar is the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So, my people, what needs to happen is that you need to go, because A government under a prime minister, the prime minister chooses a cabinet, and then she chooses all of the boards that will run the country with her vision, her policies, take her government's direction, implement strategies and so on in her mindset, her spirit, her soul, her heart. That is Kamala. Kamala did not appoint you. Rowley, Smallpin, and those who were rejected by the people appointed you. Furthermore, earlier, well, Bacchanal, the board of Angostura, headed by a Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett, I thought you are a learned attorney. Go your way. They are saying and answering Anna Ramdas in the Express and saying them ain't going nowhere. All right, that they're going to wait for the major shareholders to decide on their fate. Well, first and foremost, the major shareholder is the government. The government is in charge since the PNM 2009 debacle with CL Financial and CLICO. The government is the major shareholder. The government, the liquidator of CL Financial, they owe the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The NIF, the National Insurance Fund, that is an amalgam of government shareholders, government investments, and the board is going to be appointed by the government, duly elected and so on. So Mr. Barrett and others are staying on, including, let me read out the names of these PNM appointed clowns who do not understand simple political convention. Okay? Let me find it here. There is Mr. Barrett, who's appointed by the PNM. Okay? He is the chairman. You also have Miriam Abdul Richards. You know when Miriam Abdul Richards came to prominence? She came to prominence during the COVID. She had a little press conference with her mask on, and Keith Rowley became so infatuated with Miriam Abdul Richards, he forget about all them other doctors who were there. And remember in that press conference, go back and play it, or you find it, or your social media. He only looked and said, he forget about Avery Hines and all of them, Dr. Truckman, all of them who was there from the start, and everything was Dr. Richards and Dr. Richards. All you go and watch it now. I laughed in my belly full. After that, Dr. Miriam Abdul Richards got on many boards all over the place, including Angostura board. And like they don't want to go, let's see. The board members are Barrett, Sterling Frost. Sterling Frost, you is not the same man the PNM wanted to put up as president before Kangaloo. You is not that man, Sterling Frost. Also, Franca Costello. Franca Costello, what you holding on for? The election is lost. You're lost. Go your way. Whatever you all were doing at Angostura, under the direction of the PNM cabinet, under Rowley's direction and Smallpin direction, fulfilling the philosophy of the PNM, weaning the country off of the resources of the government. Whatever PNM philosophy was, Kamala not on that. So Kamala don't need all here. All you must go with your philosophical leaders, Rowley and Smallpin. They were rejected out of hand, 26 seats for the UNC, 2 seats in Tobago, and 3 seats that Michaela and a bareback man saved them from by the skin of their teeth. So you go, fight up and see if you want to go and support Penny. But you are not needed, you're not required. The Prime Minister of the country said, go, don't make her have to embarrass you any further. This video not embarrassing you all, Mr. Barrett, Mr. Sterling Frost. You're staying till what? It's snow in Trinidad and Tobago. Boy, go, all you lost. Miss Franca Costello, Dr. Miriam Abdul Richards. Wait, you still had a Richard's name? Mark Richards was my partner in Fatima since 1980, and before that at UE Primary School from 1974 to 1980. I wonder if I call Mark and ask him a few things. Gerard Cooper And Trisha Kusal, you there? You know your father is Rowley's best friend. When Rowley was in opposition and going through email gate, he would move around with Kusal anywhere he going. Nobody else, except Rohan and Kusal. Trisha Kusal, you're appointed by the PNM. The PNM has lost. Do you not understand the convention? Do you not have class? Do you not have character? Don't you understand that you need to go? Why am I even having to do this video to tell intelligent people that they've lost? What are you holding on for now? We know a lot of things that went on in Angostura, including this Vibes Cartel fiasco. Is it that y'all are holding on there hoping that the country will not be told by Kamala Persad-Bissessar about all the insane decisions taken by the Angostura board, of all the procurement, of all the nepotism, of all the money that wasted left, right, and center? Is that why y'all holding on, y'all and Plipdeco? Go in peace, because all you're gone anyway you take it, Y'all are dead board members walking. So bust out. The PNM lost. The people rejected not only Rowley and Smallpin and the rest of them like Foster and Coleman, Penny and Camille, the one who can add. They rejected you also. So go, Mr. Barrett. Go, Mr. Sterling Frost. Go, Miss Franca Costello. Go, Dr. Miriam Abdul. You're a hero, but this is about the third one. You going chirrup, chirrup, one by one. Go from all your PNM appointments. Rowley may love you. Rowley may want you to walk down steps. Rowley may want you to play with his tree dog or feed his parrot. But Kamala does not want you. She does not have steps. She don't have no tree dog in the yard. She have one, like Dr. Bissessar dog. And she definitely don't have no parrot. So Dr. Miriam Abdul Richards, go your way. And to Annette Watty and the rest of the board members. Listen. Okay, the rest of the board members, no problem. I'll go read out all their name tomorrow. Trinidad and Tobago, this is the PNM. This is why you rejected them. Why are they holding on? And to the fraud squad, as I told you before, those who holding on and don't want to go for their life, ask yourself, fraud squad officers, why? 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 Bless.